Agent Key, yeah, selling Sacramento. Agent Key, Agent Key, yeah, selling Sacramento. She's selling Sacramento. Agent Key, she's selling Sacramento. Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Hey, everyone watching, say something in the chat. Let us know you're there. Their mics are good. Just
Yeah, I got you. That's my straight is 10. 5. 3. Here we go.
Hey, everyone. It is Wednesday. You are listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. I am Agent Key, and we are selling Sacramento. We're going to jump right into today's show because I have two guests today. And our topic, in honor of Fair Housing Month, we are almost at the last, like in the middle of the month of Fair Housing Month of April. And so our topic for discussion today is building a better future, exploring two programs driving environmental justice and inclusion. And first, before we get started, I want to say that Selling Sacramento is always brought to you every Wednesday by Matthews and Company Realty Group, where I, Agent Key, am broker and owner, and look forward to helping you buy and sell real estate. So go to my website at agentkey.com, agentkee.com, if you are looking to buy or sell. And remember, if you've never thought about home ownership, give me a call and let's just have the conversation and get you mapped out with a plan towards home ownership. Now back to the show. Building a Better Future, exploring two programs driving environmental justice and inclusion. So today, I invite you to join us as we explore the inspiring work of two programs that are making a real difference in Northern California's urban landscape. The first program is the Lead Hazard Reduction Grant Program, which is administered by the Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency. Whether you rent or own, does your home have chipped, peeling, or old paint? If so, that could be a sign that there may be hidden health hazards in your home. This program, the Lead Hazard Reduction Grant Program, administered through SHRA, provides environmental justice to underserved communities by eliminating lead hazards from homes. So by creating safer and healthier homes, the Lead Hazard Reduction Grant Program is contributing to the overall improvement of public health while also creating opportunities for sustainable communities. That was a mouthful. Let me take a small break. The second program that we're going to talk about today is Y Build. And Y Build is the letter Y, B-U-I-L-D, and that stands for the Young Black Urban Initiative for Land Development. So if you are not already aware, exclusionary employment and discriminatory banking practices have historically barred Black developers from the real estate development ecosystem, limiting their access to capital and economic mobility. And Y Build is a new nonprofit organization that seeks to empower young Black and future leaders in the land use industry in Northern California. And their mission? To provide the necessary skills and resources for success, serving as a catalyst for positive change and advancement in the industry. By equipping young Black future leaders with the tools, connections, and resources they need to succeed, Y Build is contributing to a more inclusive and diverse land use industry. So keep it locked in right here today for about 1 hour with me, Agent Key, and I'm going to introduce our first guest with SHRA. First, we have SHRA Program Representative Michael Taylor, who is the Director of Real Estate and Construction Services. Say hello to everyone,
Hi,
Michael.
everyone. Thank you, Key. It's a
Thank
pleasure being
you.
here.
Thank you for being here. And then we have lead consultant Jeff Van Sloot,
Yes.
and he is an inspector. My guy, love inspectors. The Lead Detective Agency. That's the
Yes.
name of your company.
Yes, it is.
The Lead Detective Agency. That is very cool. So tell us, what is the purpose of the program and how does it work?
Okay, good question. So SHRA received a grant from HUD last year, 2022, to administer grant monies to low-income residents. They could be homeowners or renters. And for income qualified renters or owners, up to, or the HUD prefers that we average about $10,000 per residence. Could be more or less depending on what needs to be done. But we solicited the services of a consultant who is sitting here right with me, Jeff Van Sloot, who does the actual inspections to see if the home has
lead contaminated.
levels that surpass the threshold.
So are you saying there's a certain amount of lead that is allowable, but a certain amount that makes it?
Well,
Yeah.
there are levels that are considered acceptable by the federal government.
Okay. All right. And so are there certain houses that are most likely to benefit from this program?
Yes, older homes. So as you know, like Oak Park and some of the older neighborhoods in Sacramento go as far back as the late 1800s. And so lead-based paint, from then up until around the
Mid 60s
Yeah.
was very prominent in
Yeah.
lead,
I-
in paint.
Yeah.
Basically, that's what paint was lead mixed with linseed oil.
Yeah.
And then applied mostly on the exterior of houses is where we find it the most.
So that would bring us to why we as real estate professionals actually have a disclosure that we have to provide with our contracts and listing agreements about lead-based paint disclosure prior to 1978.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Which is when the government banned it from being in paint. It had already been being phased out.
So houses that were built prior to the 1940s more than likely have it, but at 1978 is where the government said, this is it, no more.
Right.
Very good. Okay, so what should people know about eligibility for the program?
Well, there's a
Is this
thing
an
called
income qualifying program?
It's an income qualified
Yeah.
program. So, we serve low income residents. And so there's a thing called the area median income. And the people who apply cannot exceed 80% of the area median income. So as an example, a family of three cannot exceed $72,950 a year, which is 80% of area median income. So it's based on household size.
Okay.
And then a family of four would be 81,000, and so on.
I was going to ask you a question that was probably going to put you on the spot, but I'm prepared to help you answer the question. Where can someone go to find out whether or not they qualify? Especially as it
We have
pertains
that
to-
data on our website, and there's other resources, but it will be changing again May 15th. They change once a year.
The median
the
income.
area median income
Right.
levels.
Yes.
So yeah, you can see based on household size, where you land.
Okay, but if they wanted to just check out general information about the program, I think we do have the website shra.org/LHRP,
Correct.
which stands for Lead Hazard Repair Program.
Reduction.
Lead Hazard Reduction Program.
Yes.
Okay, my paper says repair. I just want to say Lead Hazard Reduction Program. This is really good. So, as far as what people should know about eligibility, what eligible areas are included? Which parts of town? Which
All
parts
over
of
the
Sac-
city and county.
Okay. So that would be Sacramento City and County, Citrus Heights, Folsom.
Elk Grove, Gulf, Carmichael, you name it. If it's in the county of Sacramento.
Yeah. The reason I think it's good to emphasize that is because people listening, if there's something that they can connect with while they're listening, then it might become important to them, right? So it's important to say, there is a median income price or a median income amount, at for a certain family size. So if someone's listening and you say a family the size of 3, and that person, oh, I have 3 people in my family, something like that. So just putting those trigger words out there. And so also funding can be used by owners or renters.
That's correct. So landlords, let's say you've got a landlord who owns a 20-unit apartment complex. As long as no more than 20% of the residents in that apartment complex make more than 80%, then we could potentially do all of the units.
So this is very helpful then for investor owners.
Yes.
Who own properties that may be subsidized or have low-income owners or low-income renters in them.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's geared for private owners. So our residents, meaning SHRA's residents, which are public housing residents, because it's public, our residents are not eligible. Now we've already done lead reduction in our units, going far back.
Right.
But so Section 8 residents that may live in an apartment complex,
Right.
As long as they're not, it's called project-based, meaning it's public. As long as it's a private landlord, like I was saying, then they're eligible.
Okay, that's good news to know. So then, for example, I have an example here on my paper. I don't have all of this knowledge. It was handed to me. A family of 1, the maximum income is the maximum income is $56,750. A family of 4 cannot have an income more than $81,050. But as you stated, those numbers are going to change soon for median income.
Yeah, in about a month.
Okay. And kind of going back, I want to go back to the purpose of the program. When we talk about lead paint and when we talk about things such as social and environmental justice, I'm thinking right now I'm thinking of just because we brought up the whole I'm losing my words here. The low income, Section 8, there we go.
Oh, yeah.
The Section 8 housing. We know that many times, many people, the issues that they have with their owners when it's a tenant is repairs on the house. So how would they go about, they don't own the house, they just live in it. They're experiencing issues, possibly lead paint issues. How do they then encourage or influence the owner to get these repairs made? Is there some type of a middle ground or some type of a hand holding that you all do with them from the tenant to the owner to make this happen for them?
Well, we have yet to assist renters. We're working on a homeowner right now. So if a renter wanted to encourage their landlord to look into it, because you won't know, like, again, until Jeff goes out and tests the unit whether it's got that level of lead in it or not. Because the grants are just that, they're grants, and there's no cost to either the landlord, the owner, whoever the owner is, and obviously the renters, there's no cost to them.
Right.
Then that's probably the biggest incentive is it's cost free.
Right. Yeah.
And so the improvement that would be made to the owner's property, it speaks for itself.
So I'm thinking you guys maybe want to get some marketing material together that talks about the benefits to the owner in the event the tenant comes to you and says, hey, my unit has issues, but my landlord may not be convinced by me. I'm just going to put that out.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And I suppose the issues that if they wanted, because you don't know what you don't see.
Right.
It's sort of one of those invisible issues.
Well, let's talk about that, because you mentioned that if Jeff goes out there. So what if lead is detected in a home? What happens?
So the issue behind lead-based paint is that it has to become available for mostly children. Children under the age of 6 are the ones who are harmed the most from lead-based paint. It actually stunts neural growth. So cognitive learning, like reading, doing math, gets slowed down for a child who's exposed to lead. And it's an irreversible effect.
Right.
So we want to go out and see, are there things that could be causing this lead to get released in order for that child to touch?
Okay.
So what we do is that we test all the paint throughout the house to see where it is. So the owner or the tenant will have a knowledge of all the places that there are lead. Sometimes you may have lead on a wall, but if the wall is in good shape, there's really no threat to anybody.
Right. Yeah.
So-
it's not chipping. It's not showing signs
Right,
that
right.
there's an issue.
So in my testing, I'll find out where that lead is. Is it in poor shape? Put those notes for SAC housing to go through and fix. We also look for lead dust, because once it gets released, lead paint is actually a very brittle substance. And when it gets released, we step on it and crunch like a potato chip. We turn it down to a dust level that children can put hand to mouth
Right.
and get exposure. So we'll test for test by wipes on the floor to see if there any lead contamination there. And then we also go on the outside, because lead paint was mostly commonly used on the outside of the houses because it's sealed really tight against weather on
Right,
wood.
yeah.
So, but as time goes on, that paint gets old and brittle and starts to fall off and gets in the soil. Or when people are preparing their house to paint, they'll scrape off all that loose paint.
Right.
Those paint chips are in the soil. Sometimes children who see those things are curious and they may want to eat them. And when they eat them, they'll actually find it has a sweet taste to it, and they may want to continue to do that. So the paint is in the soil. They are either through the paint chips, or sometimes the paint dissolves over time, but lead doesn't ever go away.
Wow.
It's always there. And then anybody who's playing in that dirt or working in that dirt for gardening could end up getting themselves exposed by doing hand-to-mouth activity.
So knowing that, so we initially started by saying if your paint is chipping, if it's starting to break off and things of that nature, you might be exposed to a health hazard. However, what other ways are there, or are there other signs of knowing that you might have lead-based paint? I'm thinking the obvious one is just the age of the home, the age of the paint job.
Yes, 1960s is when I see that things started to phase over to latex paint, and they didn't use the lead in the latex. So the older the home gets, the higher the chance and higher the percentage of lead. So a little paint chip from an early 1900 house has a lot more lead in it than a paint chip from 1960.
So this is going to be important for our listeners. If you know the age of the home that you're living in, if you are a renter and you need to find out the age of the home you're living in, reach out to me. I'll look up the tax record for you and I'll check out the age. If you suspect that there might be lead in the home based on the age of the home, if you know you live in a neighborhood where it's older, early 1900s, this is a great opportunity. I'm also thinking, because you said some of the signs of lead exposure are the developmental issues in the children. Now, I'm assuming that you're kind of looking at this is being gauged over a long period of time. Is it something that happens immediately, or?
The damage happens very quickly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we're focusing on 90% actually of our applicants have to have a child under the age of 6 who either reside in the home or visit the home regularly.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Because
this
of
is
the
really a big
importance of the
issue.
childhood.
So what are
aspect.
some of the, can you repeat again some of the effects, the damaging health effects?
Well, again, mostly for children, it's learning cognitivity. It's also lead is a poison for adults. It can cause increased blood pressure. It can cause reproductive problems. So even for the adults who are living in the house or working on the house can be affected from the lead poisoning.
Wow. So we have a comment here through one of our viewers, Rich Cardenas, faithful listener. He said, so I'm certified through the EPA to remove lead-based paint and repaint the building. How can I become a paint vendor for this program if possible?
That's a good question. We actually had to solicit to get a list of contractors that we can use for this program last year when we were putting it in place. So we already have 3 contractors on board. That's not to say that if one of them falls off, we couldn't
Use another one.
use another one.
Mhm.
You have to be state certified lead abatement
Okay.
contractor.
Okay. Rich says he
The
is.
HUD, the
Okay.
HUD, well, there's different programs out there
Okay.
with regard to lead. Your listener there is under what is called the RRP program, which stands for Renovation, Repair, and Painting. It's a one-day program that the EPA requires every contractor who ever touches a pre-78 house to go through.
Okay.
It's a small one-day class, and they learn about the dangers and how to clean up.
Okay.
But under this HUD program, the regulations require that the contractors be abatement certified. And that's
Okay.
a 5-day class that they have to go through, plus have to take a state exam to prove that they are knowledgeable on lead.
Okay. And so where would they go to get that information as a contractor? One of the things that we emphasize in this station is also helping small businesses and providing resources for them to get to the next level. So
Mhm.
can you provide that information
So
as well?
that program to be an abatement contractor is overseen by the California Department of Public Health.
Okay. And is there something in particular, a link in particular,
I really don't know it, but I'm sure if you just Google
abatement program, California Department of
California
Public Health?
Department of Health and put in the word lead, it'll take you to that website.
Okay, Rich, did you get that? If you're still watching and listening, I'm taking notes and I'll do a little bit of research on my end, but you heard it first. Thank you so much. So now another question before we have just a few more minutes here, and we want to make sure that we get the information here covered. What is the deadline to apply?
The program is a 3-year program, so we're going through the end of 2024.
Okay.
So another year and a half at least, possibly the beginning of 2025, but we'll say the end of next year.
Okay, excellent. And what will be covered if someone is approved for this work?
Well, that's a good question. Sometimes, in Jeff's experience, because we're only working on one house currently, the damage to the exterior is so extensive that it's going to cost well over the $10,000 that this program. So this program is not intended to help, like a Victorian home, for instance, that's just got loose flaking paint all over the outside of the house could be a $100,000 job.
Which probably also has to go through the Historic Preservation Committee as well.
Possibly, yeah, very
Right.
possibly.
Remember that this program is to reduce lead hazards, not to eliminate the lead paint. It is basically just to make the house safe for the time being.
Okay, that's excellent. So if the paint is on the walls or on the ground, does the homeowner or tenant have to leave the unit?
Sometimes, but relocation can be a pricey thing, and so our thought is that, let's say a bedroom, has paint that needs to be stabilized. We could cordon off one room at a time. Let's say the bedroom, the kitchen, or the entire interior of the house. To the extent that it's possible, if we can cordon off just a room at a time without moving people out, if it works, we'd prefer to do that.
Right, right. But Michael, if you do have to move people out, who pays for their
We do.
SHRA?
Yep.
Very good, very good. Are there any repairs that are not covered under the program?
Well, they don't deal with mold. They don't deal with asbestos. And like Mike is saying, if the house is in very high disrepair, then they don't have the funds to handle
Right, right. Okay. Is there anything else that you'd like our listeners to know about the program? We've got the website up, and you want to give us that before we go?
www.shra.org/LHRP.
Excellent. And Jeff?
I'm a
You want to give a shout out to the Lead Detective Agency?
I've been in business for 25 years, and I do have a website. If you just Google Lead Detective Agency,
Okay.
I'll be happy to help people.
That is a very cool name. I'm going to Google that because every now and then we get folks asking about looking into the lead, and it's a after this, we can send them to the program if it's within the next 3 years.
Absolutely.
They're low income. Yeah.
Thank you, Michael and Jeff, for being here, and SHRA. And we want to give a shout out to Angela and Kanisha for helping put this segment together. And you are listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. I am Agent Key, and we will be right back.
stress and the aggravation as long as we know what to do and what to expect.
Agent Key, is selling Sacramento. She selling Sacramento.
To ease your burden as a seller, we've shifted much of the work of preparing to sell from you, the seller, to myself and my team. As a single-family home expert, I work with over 75% more single-family homes than the average Sacramento agent. I and my team of specialists, stagers, handymen, inspectors, marketing, title, and escrow, are dedicated exclusively to assisting you through the process of selling your home. We do everything possible to make sure everything goes as smoothly as possible. As a matter of fact, I know you're going to love this video series. So click right now on the link associated with this video if you are ready for the ultimate seller's experience, or text ULTIMATE to 833-530-1018. And thank you in advance for working with me, because I'm looking forward to working with you.
Agent Key is selling Sacramento. She's selling Sacramento. She's selling Sacramento. Oh yeah. Agent Key is selling Sacramento. She selling Sacramento. Agent Key is selling Sacramento. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Hey, but your mic just a little bit. Perfect.
You're welcome,
No, no, you're good,
Rich.
you're good. Here we go.
Miss
5,
Patricia, you're welcome. You're welcome.
3.
Blessings
Here
to
we go.
you too. Hey everyone, we're back. You're listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. I am Agent Key. We are selling Sacramento, and we are building a better future, exploring 2 programs that are driving environmental justice and inclusion. At the beginning of the show, we drove environmental justice. Right now, we are driving inclusion. I'm excited that we have with us today Why Build. And as I said earlier on in the show, they are a new nonprofit organization seeking to empower young Black future leaders in the land use industry in Northern California. And so I have with me today Miss Candace Thurman, and she is in retail with CBRE, CB Richard Ellis. Yes. And she's the co-founder. She is one of the co-founders of Why Build. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good, good.
How are you?
Good, thank you. And then I also have Miss Austin Perry, also a co-founder of Why Build. How are you, Miss Austin? I told them, I have to tell you guys, I've adopted them. They are my nieces. What they're doing with Why Build, I feel like is something that I probably would have done in my earlier 20s. And now I'm at the other leg of this thing. However, let's just jump right into this. Tell us a little bit about both of you, your background, and then how Why Build came to be. Who would like to go first?
I'll jump in there and say, first off, thank you so much for having us both. Austin and I were really excited when we first found out about the opportunity. But my name is Candace Thurmond. I was born and raised in Sacramento. and really grew up loving the community, and ended up with CBRE on the retail side in Sacramento, got my start there, and I'm now in San Francisco working in the greater Bay Area, but ultimately trying to connect the Bay Area and Sacramento through retail, through community building, and through driving diversity, DEI initiatives in our industry.
Awesome. Miss Austin.
My name is Austin Perry. I am a private consultant. I do a lot of diversity, equity, inclusion work in our industry and some social impact work as well. Currently, I work for the California Coalition for Rural Housing, and we run an internship program where we bring students of color in and train them up to be project managers in affordable housing. So the affordable housing background is where I come from, and that's where my taste of the land use industry and introduction was. But there's so many different layers of our industry, and we're really excited to expand that diversity kind of throughout all the different modes.
And you recently won an award. I was stalking you on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much. Yes, I was nominated last year for the top 25 Black Changemakers by the Nehemiah Scholars Program in the Sacramento Bee. So
You got a
thank you so much.
Nehemiah scholar in here, y'all.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. That says a lot about you and about both of you. And let's just dive right into why build. How did it come to be?
You know, I always love telling this story because I think it's one of those things that I look back 3 years ago when Austin and I met. It was the middle of the pandemic. We were dealing with the death of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and really just that we were at the high point of what police brutality looked like in our country. And Austin and I had a conversation, and we said, look, we realize that we are one of the only people in our industry, or at least it feels like it.
Right.
And we had a conversation, and my day felt much better. And so
Wow.
that conversation ultimately turned into a dinner. She brought together a couple of folks that she knew in our industry. I brought together a couple of folks that I knew, and we just started talking with one another. And we had so many shared stories, experiences, and that dinner ultimately grew into I would say a quarterly event. And we would come together, and what started as a group of 6 or 8 of us grew eventually into 12, 14, all throughout the Northern California area, Sacramento to the Bay Area. And we just came to realize, we said, wait a second, there's a need for a formal group like us so that we can help grow and cultivate one another in this industry.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we feel like we're alone, and to be able to come together, and I'm a broker, Austin's in the social impact space, we have people who are on the development side,
Right.
and really partner up with one another the same way we see it happening in each of our organizations.
Right.
We want to be a part of that change. We recognize that there is an issue with DEI and our representation, especially amongst Black individuals in commercial real estate and land use, but we also want to be a part of that solution.
Right.
And we figured, why not do that in our hometown or in our home communities?
So what are some of the key initiatives that Why Build plans to undertake and with supporting Black leaders in this land use space? What is it that you're planning to do? You're brand new, but you are already powerful just in numbers and in position. So what are some of the things that you all are talking about?
Right. So one of the things that makes us really unique as an organization is that we're interdisciplinary, like Candace mentioned. We have architects, folks that are urban planners, some commercial real estate brokers, some people that are project managers for developers. So we cover a lot of breadth. Anything that has to do with the built environment is what we focus on, which is a really exciting place to be.
Yeah.
So because of that, we got together with our board that we've now founded. There are 9 of us, and we really sat down and thought, okay, what do we want to do? Where do we want our organization to move forward and push forward in Northern California? And we have 6 initiatives.
Okay.
The first is professional support. Candace kind of mentioned that we're able to lean on each other and say, hey, like, how are you? I'm working through this issue at my job. Have you done anything like this? Or how can you support? And we can lean on each other.
Right.
Business development is also a big one. Membership organizations, they tend to have a lot of networking events where you can kind of chat with each other, but particularly in growing the power of the Black community in Northern California, that extra oomph of, hey, I am a developer, we're looking for a contractor.
Right.
Don't you work for a
Yeah,
contractor?
yeah.
Making those connections to make money, right?
Yeah.
To build wealth.
The development, Black development LinkedIn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly. The third one is community impact. We also, of course, want to have a community impact on where we came from and also get really kind of plugged in with other nonprofits, municipalities. We really want to have an impact on where we operate. Leadership development is a big one for us as well. So plugging folks in with mentors that are in our industry. And then the last two kind of relate to each other. That's we want to be a vehicle for allyship and also corporate collaboration.
Yeah.
A lot of times we see folks that have organizations that are rather homogenous, right? Or maybe kind of lack diversity for whatever reasons. A lot of the times this industry takes a lot of money, right? And because of that, the folks who tend to have a lot of decision-making power they have a lot of generational wealth, right?
Yes.
And what that means in the U.S., as we know, is that typically means white folks. And we see a lot of folks come to us or mention, hey, we see that there is a diversity problem in our industry. What can we do to help? And we want White Build to be a network and be a partner with those organizations so they can lean on us and say, hey, we're looking to diversify our staff. How do we do that? And we hear folks say, we don't really find a pipeline. We're having trouble finding new staff. And for them to look at White Build and say, there is a pipeline. Yes. We're here, and this is how you can contact us is really huge.
Yeah. So you're setting yourselves up to be this beacon of access in various different areas. It's just phenomenal.
Absolutely. I always tell people, growing up, my story is sort of like I saw little pieces of land use and commercial real estate, but it never came together until post-grad. My major was human communications and Spanish. I had no idea that there was a whole world where, I go to Target every day. Right. And how did that Target come to be in our community?
How did they decide that the Target was going to go there?
Exactly. What did that process look like? By the time you see the news article of a brand new development or retail center, that was probably 5-10 years out in the making. Right. And so I started to think to myself, well, who's making those decisions? Right. Why do certain communities have liquor stores on the corner and other communities have Trader Joe's? Right. Well, it's because the decision makers at the table don't understand the communities in which they could be very successful in. One of the nuggets that I always like to share with people is one of the top performing Whole Foods in the US is in Oakland, California. People would never assume that to be true because of what we know Oakland to be, right? Or perceive Oakland to be. But you have the presence, the demographic that's sort of changing that narrative. Mm-hmm. What we're trying to do is change the face of commercial real estate. We know that by having more people, not just having a seat at the table, but also being a decision maker and having a voice of authority in those decisions, that we will start to create the communities that we want to see. Austin and I always talk about Sacramento is one of the most diverse cities in the US. I think it always ranks in the top 3. Yeah. The fact that we walk into some of our offices that are the decision makers of how Sacramento is scaped out and throughout the Bay Area as well, and we don't see people who look like us who are decision makers, that's part of the reason that gentrification has such a bad rap. But what if we can be a part of that changing the narrative and saying, no, we will have a seat at the table and we will help make those decisions, because that's ultimately not only impacting us, but it's impacting the future of us as well.
Now you are out of the Bay Area. You were in Sacramento. You're now in the Bay. Why build? How extensive is its reach with the people that are on the board, with the people who are serving, with the people you connect with?
That's a good question. We have a board of 9. I'd say that there's 3 kind of in the Bay Area-ish area, and then the rest of us are here in the Sacramento region. But one of the reasons why we even tackled Northern California is that there wasn't really an organization like us at the time. Mm-hmm. So there are some affinity groups in our industries on the eastern half of the United States and even in Los Angeles. But then we kind of looked around to Northern California and there were very few. Mm-hmm. There are some organizations that are establishing now, like the Black Developers Forum out of the Bay Area and the African American Real Estate Professional Network that's establishing in the Bay Area as well. Mm-hmm. And we're really happy to make that connection. But we're happy to be really focusing on young folks under 40. That's really important to us.
I don't feel slighted at all.
As far as our reach, I mean, we started with 6 people or so, those 2020, 2021 meetings. Yeah. And we have 9 on our board. I think in our group text, we have 15. And I believe we're about like 30, 35 at the moment as far as interest. Mm-hmm. And that seems like a small number,
But it really isn't.
That's
super
huge.
significant.
It's very huge in the sense of, just as you were saying earlier, you thought you were out there by yourself.
Mhm. Yeah.
When I saw you, I'm like, what is this? Development? There's Black folks working at these places? We don't know that we exist.
Exactly.
So 35 right now, 3,500 next year. I can see that, right? That's
the
just,
goal. That's the goal.
it's
yeah.
amazing. So how does YBuild collaborate with other organizations and stakeholders that are in the industry to promote diversity and inclusion? How does that happen? What is the plan?
You know, I laughed at the comment you made about you don't feel slighted being over the age gap, but we really do look to our advisors, people who have been through this process before, as our leaders. We give them our nod, we recognize, and we seek advice from them. We're not looking to reinvent the wheel. We're really looking to lean on the people who walked and paved the way before us and say, how can we continue this march? Hold our hands, be our guidance. Give us words of wisdom as we walk through this process. So I always like to give my nod to the folks who are really pouring into Austin and I, but other folks in our organization, and saying, hey, don't give up on this industry, because oftentimes one of the things that we found to be true is people hit a glass ceiling. And I can't tell you the number of people that I came in looking at and saying, yes, that's who I want to be. And they ultimately ended up leaving the industry.
Wow.
And that was scary for me, because I said, well, wait a second, if they're leaving at this benchmark, that's all I can see to attain.
Wow.
And even Austin, you've mentioned a couple of times, it's like, be the change you want to see.
Yeah.
And so when we're looking at how we're collaborating with other organizations, I think the BDFs of the world, the AREPs of the world, we really find that to be important, because that's the bringing it together, the holistic part, the synergy, the ecosystem that ultimately creates economic wealth and development in our community. But I think the other added element that we like to recognize is there are people who we consider allies or champions of our cause in this industry that say, hey, we want to support this. We may not be Black or African American, but we do recognize that there is a serious issue, and we recognize that there are some benefits. Like, there's a business case to be had when you start to diversify what your staff looks like, what your developments look like, and who are leading those developments. And so, you know, the ULIs of the world, that's how Austin and I got connected. She roped me into ULI and said, come along for the ride.
Tell everybody what ULI is.
ULI is the Urban Land Institute. They have a chapter, they're global, but they have a chapter in Sacramento. And during the pandemic, Austin led our DEI council and still is the chair of our DEI council. So I'll let you speak to that. But really just taking us in and saying, hey, we're not just saying we want to diversify, we're also putting our money where our mouth is. These membership fees are not cheap at all.
Yeah.
But if they can support us through this path that we're going down, people down the road can say, oh, that actually is attainable. Because when I first found out about ULI, I said, I certainly can't afford that. But now that I've had the opportunity, I want to pay it forward. I'm telling people about ULI all day long and saying it is possible to be in this ecosystem, this sphere where people who look like me and people who don't look like me ultimately want to create a better place, a better Sacramento, a better Bay Area, wherever they may be.
We have maybe 10 minutes left, maybe a little bit less than that. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to dive into it a little bit more. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to talk about ULI. Somebody is listening right now, and they're in this space, and they didn't even know that y'all existed, and they're doing cartwheels. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we will be back with the ladies of YBuild. You're listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. I am Agent Key.
Market analysis. This will help us determine a likely range that your home should sell for.
She's selling Sacramento. She's selling Sacramento.
Although I do hope you take my advice, you ultimately get to decide what your home's list price will be. However, keep in mind, it's the buyer who will determine what your home will sell for based on what they are ready, willing, and able to pay. One caveat to be aware of is overpricing. When you overprice your home, you fall out of line with the market, causing buyers to wonder what's wrong with this home and possibly lose interest. My best advice to you, is, before we even go over the comparables, make sure that you check the market data and price your home accordingly. And that's just one of many valuable tips you'll find when you download right now my brand new ebook for free, The Ultimate Seller's Guide, everything you need to know from start to finish. By me, Agent Key, because I am selling Sacramento. Before we do
Let's go.
Hey everyone, we're back. You're listening to Selling Sacramento on 97.5 FM KDE. And today we are talking about building a better future as we explore two programs one driving environmental justice, the other driving equitable inclusion in the building industry. And I am excited about the ladies that are here today. We don't have a lot of time left. I would love for them to just be here for another hour to talk about themselves, to talk about their experiences in this space, because this is so needed. What you're doing is so needed. So let's just jump right into our next question. What advice would YBuild give to young people who are interested in pursuing a career in the land use industry, particularly those from underrepresented communities?
Well, the primary advice that I would give is to note that our industry is highly relationship based. A lot of the business transactions that occur are based on who you know, and if you're working at a certain company, you might have gotten there because you knew somebody there. And that is the reason, I'd argue, why the industry is so exclusive.
Yeah.
And why historically it's some of the same folks and their family members.
That whole good
their
old boys
friends.
network.
Exactly. Yes,
Mhm.
very much like the country club, golf course sort of industry, right?
Another reason
So-
why the fees to enter are so high.
Yes, exactly. So there's all these kind of equitable issues to think about, but for young folks, I encourage them to kind of black that out
Yeah.
and just make as many connections as possible. And that's one of the things that we're hoping YBuild can provide,
Yeah.
is so they can join us, see other folks who look like them, reflect who they are, reflect their backgrounds, and can come to us for those relationship building. But also, I would argue that the online resources are so valuable. Candace and I met via LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I literally found her profile and I sent her a DM summer of 2020, like, hi, you seem interesting. We should really connect. I really like what you're
Wait,
doing.
did you use the default LinkedIn message?
I didn't.
You seem interesting.
I didn't, but I didn't
Okay.
slide into Candace's DM.
Okay.
That did happen. So I would really encourage folks to kind of look through either LinkedIn or look at the industry to see if there's folks that they look up to.
Yeah.
What are they doing? How do they get there?
Don't be
And
afraid to make the
don't
connection.
be afraid to reach out to them,
Yeah.
send that email, introduce themselves, show up to networking events,
Yes.
even if it's scary. And for YBuild, we'll welcome you with open arms.
Yeah.
And we're really hoping that that's the
Well,
case.
LinkedIn has actually gotten a lot more powerful and useful in its recent years. And so as we talk about ULI and other organizations, you could literally go on there, type in the word land use industry, and a ton of different programs and organizations will come up where you can just click and join and then find out where they're meeting and go, right? So what if someone is not in the industry, but they're thinking about it? Can they come to YBuild? Can they check YBuild out?
Oh, yes, most certainly. Yeah.
I always say I don't gatekeep my connections. I've been very blessed and fortunate to meet some of the people that I have, and I want people to be able to have those same relationships, because that's ultimately how our industry continues to grow and how we as individuals continue to grow. And so my thing is social capital. Your social capital is key.
I love that.
How people identify you and recognize you, not just in this industry, but how you walk through life, is so important. So being the hard worker, yes, is important. Being able to communicate clearly and effectively is important. But also it's the random outreach to the CEO that's like, hey, can I have 30 minutes of your time to just listen to talk to you about what you do, you'd be surprised how often people enjoy talking about themselves.
Yes.
And you find the little connections that they like to go out boating or they like to spend time in Toronto, and suddenly you have that now deeper connection with them. And so I say take the risk, and through Why Build, we want to help grow those people. Like, to our own testament, there's been people in our group before we even formalized, and even after we formalized, where it's like, hey guys, I'm in this sector right now and I want to make this transition to development. And it's like, oh, I know someone. Or if I have a leader at my job call me up and say, hey, I'm really focused on hiring diverse. Like, do you know anyone? I automatically go to the Why Build chat, whatever it may be. And I'm like, this is the criteria.
So you guys are setting up a database.
Exactly. We're setting up a database. I want to be able to connect the developer. They're like, I have a development project and I need a contractor, I need an architect, I need a grant writer. I want that to all come through Why Build, be cultivated through Why Build. And so as a young person, it's watching and learning, but also not being afraid to build your social capital. That I think it's one of the most hidden things in this industry.
So I have a question, and it's putting you on the spot just a little bit, but y'all are brilliant. You can handle it. So I belong to the Building Industry Association here in Sacramento, and I asked them for a Black architect. They did not have any on the roster. What's up with that?
Right. Yes. Well,
and they searched high and low. They
Mm-hmm.
connected me with people who might know somebody who might know somebody.
Right.
And the reason that I went to BIA is because, and we, even though we are kind of starting from the bottom and working our way into this industry, BIA has been there. This cannot be an organization that you can just bypass.
Yeah.
You have to become a part of it. So why aren't there more Black architects joining organizations like BIA? We know they exist.
At a very small percentage. I don't know the exact statistic, but I know, like, for Black women, being a Black woman and an architect, I believe it's less than 1%. So being able to go out there, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. But also, I think, the other thing is a lot of these organizations haven't felt responsible in helping to cultivate the diversity. It's like, if you're a good architect, you're a good architect. But wait a second, what if we need a slightly different perspective? And it's like not just being a good architect, but happens to be Black as well.
Right.
Your thoughts, Austin, but that's one of my things is like the onus and the responsibility has not been placed on them. And now they're starting to feel a bit more of that pressure.
Good. And as that pressure comes in, that's a huge opportunity for Why Build.
Yes.
Like, as we're building our database of members, we hope to also be able to categorize folks. So if you're like looking for an architect, you can pull up who our members are and recognize who to reach out to, because that doesn't exist. There are other membership organizations that have tried to tackle that or are beginning to. Perhaps that's under a DEI initiative in their organization. I'm not that familiar with BIA, which is surprising because I've met lots of folks who are very involved. But one thing that I would love to see Why Build do is make that database so people can come to us.
Yeah.
Especially when it's not looking for specific. If you're looking for diversity in general, like there are women-owned lists, for example, you can kind of plug into your chambers of commerce to find out who is in what sorts of fields.
Right.
But for land use fields specifically, for Black folks in Northern California, we want to host that data. We want people to come to us for that information. And I would like to make a quick shout out to one of our founding members, Joanna.
I was going to ask you to actually talk, give the name of everybody on the board if you can.
Yes. So
tell us who they are.
Joanna is not on our board. She is very, very busy, but she is, I think, what number? I believe number like 650 or so Black female registered architects in the nation.
Wait, I think I just friended her this morning on LinkedIn. Is she at, where is she at?
Salazar?
Yes.
Yep, that's her.
Joanna, accept my friend request, please. Yeah, so she's like one of a handful here.
Yeah, exactly. So I think as we start to apply more pressure, but we also look at this as, we're not doing the work for these organizations. That's not our purpose or mission whatsoever. But what we are looking to be is be a partner. When I need resources, I often go to Austin. I want those organizations to be the same thing for us, is saying like, hey, we want to partner up. We want to drive our DEI initiatives. What can we be doing? And are we doing it the right way?
I want to say that I think BIA is pumped and primed And so go knock on the door. I'll send you the contact information, because that's an end that, we don't, like you said, you want to partner. You don't want to come in and be a bull in a china shop. You want to show
Exactly.
that, you have, this is just going to be huge. I can't imagine, I don't have the vision for where I see you all, but I see it being very large.
That's
Yeah.
one of the most exciting things is, we have our founding principles and our guiding principles that are helping us lead the way, but we're so excited to kind of be in this uncharted territory, and be some of the leaders
Yeah.
in this effort. And, when young people look at us, I always tell people, you don't have to be 25 years in
Yeah.
to be the change you want to see.
Yeah.
It can be happening right now. And there's so many people who support us in doing this.
Yes, you can be, what are you, 22?
I wish closer to 30, but
You can be 28 and 29 and be you were actually honored as a change maker, and that's what you're doing here with Why Build.
Yeah.
I'm excited that you're doing this. And I just have one last question, but did you have something that you wanted to let everybody know before I ask you this last question? Anything?
No,
I
go
do
for it.
want y'all to do a roll call for the
Yeah.
board members. Yes.
Me, Candace, president, Austin, our vice president and co-founder, Sheridan Evans, he's with Buzz Oates, he is our treasurer, Christopher Bridges, he's our secretary, David Brown Dawson, he's with Grosvenor in the Bay Area, and he is our general board member. Additional general board members, Darius Livingston, DeAndre Morgan, and Wumi. I never like to mispronounce your last name.
I think it's Oni Larry.
Go ahead. Say it one more time.
I think Mumi Oni Larry is how to pronounce it. I'm
Okay.
not sure.
All
She will
right.
correct me later. I apologize.
She certainly will.
Yes. Okay, any
And we
more?
miss, yes, and Christopher Bridges as well.
Okay. And so how often are you all meeting?
We meet as a board once a month, but we also have our programming committee. We have our social impact committee. So we have various committees that meet we meet in between our board meetings. And then our goal is to roll out our first kind of meet and greet style event towards the end of May.
Okay.
So be on
And
the
so-
lookout for that.
And if people want to find out how to get a hold of you, where are you at on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram?
Yes, please visit our website at www.ybuild.org. We also can be found at ybuild.org, no underscore, no dots. That's
And
our
the Y is
handle.
the letter Y.
Yes, Y is the letter Y, and then build as in the word build. And you can also email us if you're interested in getting involved, plugging in, asking us any questions, and that is info@ybuild.org.
Awesome. You ladies are amazing. I'm going to be following. I'm gonna be
Yay.
watching. I'm a fan. Thank you both for
Thank
being here
you.
today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I'm looking in the chat to see if there are any questions that anyone have for you. Everybody's saying thank you. Blessings.
Yay.
Good information. Thanks for getting this out. What was the name of the website for the lead abatement? Okay, Rich, I'll give that to you. I'll shoot that over to you via text, sir. All right, everyone. And I also see the message about the ebook during the commercial. Thank y'all for tuning in today. And again, thank you, ladies, for being here,
Thank
taking the
you.
time. And remember, everyone, if you are doing what you were created to do, I will see you at the top. This is
yay.
awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
ladies. I appreciate it. Oh, let's do a picture
Okay.
before you
Oh,
leave,
okay.
and then let's say
Yeah,
bye to
so we'll just
everybody.
go back.
Bye, y'all. We're checking out. Thank you for tuning in. Oh, was that? Oh, that's it. Corey and Dave. I thought that's good.
Oh,
Oh, there's Corian. I thought his name was Carthen Davis. I was gonna say, oh, that's another architect here in Sacramento.